This is TWiT.
All right, now on to Corey Doctorow from his fabulous blog, pluralistic.net. Now, as you know, Corey, and he's been on the shows many times, good friend, love Corey, is a bit of a muckraker. Some might think of him as a leftist, a progressive. He is a little hopping mad at all of the opprobrium Lina Khan is receiving from people like the Wall Street Journal because she's a loser. You said it even yourself, Jeff. It's kind of getting into
not
the
opprobrium so much as it. I would think that her fans are disappointed in her.
No. Let me read to you. My God, writes Corey Doctorow, they sure hate Lina Khan. This once-in-a-generation, groundbreaking, brilliant legal scholar and fighter for the public interest.
Oh,
this sounds like I could be the opening of Hamilton.
Yes.
The slayer of Reaganomics has attracted more vitriol, mockery, and dismissal than any of her predecessors in living memory. She sure must be doing something right, huh? A quick refresher, in 2017, Khan, then a law student, published Amazon's Antitrust Paradox in the Yale Law Journal. It was a brilliant, blistering analysis showing how the Reagan-era theory of antitrust, which celebrates monopolies as efficient, had failed in its own terms, using Amazon as an exhibit A of the ways in which post-Reagan antitrust had left Americans vulnerable to corporate use or abuse. The paper sent seismic shocks through both legal and economic circles and goosed the neo-Brandeisian movement, I should say, sneeringly dismissed as hipster antitrust. This movement is I can skip the history lesson.
You just want the zings.
Yeah, I like the zings. History's good, though. You should read the whole thing. When Biden won the election...
History is good.
History's very... Well, there's history calling right now. History's on the line.
Is that your landline calling?
I told you not to bother me.
Mr. Veedle. When Biden won the election, he surprised everyone by appointing Khan to the FTC. She's the chairperson. It wasn't just that she had such a radical vision. It was also that she lacked the usual corporate law experience that such an appointee would normally require. Experience that would ensure that the FTC was helmed by people whose default view of the world is it should be structured and regulated by powerful, wealthy people in corporate boardrooms. Even more surprising was that Khan was made chair of the FTC. And, of course, she got in because it just happened to be a moment in time where there were some Republicans who wanted to screw big tech, not because it was too big and powerful, but because tech leaders failed to wield that power in the ways these Republicans preferred. So they gave him some votes. He got her in. But while tech leaders are 100% committed to the project of permanent oligarchic takeover of every sphere of American life, they are less full-throated in their support for hateful, cruel discrimination against disfavored minorities. Biden's ceding of antitrust policy to the left wing of the party, combined with disaffected GOP senators viewing Khan as their enemy's enemy, led to Khan's historic appointment as FTC chair, joined by Jonathan Cantor at DOJ in the antitrust division, Tim Wu in the White House, Alvaro Bedoya at FTC, Rebecca Slaughter, Rohit Chopra. Really some big antitrust brains. Crucially, these new employees weren't just principled, they were good at their jobs. In 2021, Tim Wu, who brilliant professor, wrote an executive... You don't like him so much. Okay. Wrote an executive order for Biden that laid out 72 concrete ways in which the administration could act with no further congressional authorization to blunt corporate power and insulate Americans from oligarchs' abusive and extractive practices. Since then, the antitrust arm of the Biden administration have been effing ninjas
in getting
stuff done in ways both large and small, working for the first time since Reagan to protect Americans from predatory businesses. You can gather from this that Corey is a fan.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. You think?
Yeah. This in marked contrast, this is interesting, to the corporate Dems champions in the administration. The corporate Dems champions, like Pete Buttigieg, heralded as competent technocrats, realists who are too principled to peddle hopium to the base, writing checks they can't cash.
Hopium?
Hopium.
That's
I
nice.
like that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's a Coreyism.
That's a Coreyism. I don't think that I've ever seen that word before. Hopium.
That's kind of an Obama. I'm surprised that wasn't put on Obama.
Hopium. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, naturally, this has really pissed off all the right people. America's billionaires and their cheerleaders in the press, government, and the hive of scum and villainy that is the big law think tank industrial complex. Hive of scum and villainy is a Star Wars reference, right? Yeah. I think that was the...
that was in the first one.
Yeah, it's the Mos Eisley Spaceport. Yeah. A hive, as OP1 says, of scum and villainy.
It's beautiful.
Take the Wall Street Journal. Since Khan took office, they've published 67 vicious editorials attacking her and their policies. Khan is living rent-free in Rupert Murdoch's head. One major subgenre of the attacks is that Khan shouldn't bring any action against Amazon because her groundbreaking scholarship about the company means she has a conflict of interest. Holy moly, says Corey Doctorow. Is this a stupid thing to say? The idea that the chair of an expert agency should recuse herself because she is an expert is what the physicists call not even wrong. He is a very good writer. In any event, he defends Khan. He says the fact that people are saying she's losing, it means that she's actually winning. Yes, she's lost some cases.
Stop there.
Okay.
Stop there. Right. I mean, he wants her to be winning, but the truth is she's been losing.
Which is she? What cases has she lost?
I'm not. You couldn't remember the word trellis. I can't remember.
Well, I'll give you two recent ones: the Activision case, and then she sued Meta over their acquisition of Within, which makes a thing called Supernatural. She didn't want them to buy a company that does a VR game. She's lost in those two cases, and I expect her to lose more. That is not a reason not to file those cases. I would submit the very fact that the FTC is finally doing something is enough to get corporate boardrooms to sit up and pay attention.
People honest, right?
So the only thing, so the FTC does a lot more than just cases.
Right.
So they've actually revoked some of their merger guidelines, for older merger guidelines that are no longer applicable. They've also, so they're trying to modernize the industry. They're also issuing rulemaking, new draft merger guidelines that are actually really good. They're actually talking about what we talk about, Jeff, changing the fact that we only look at low prices for consumers as the only reason to prevent a merger. So they actually, this month, they're asking for comments on new merger guidelines. So in addition to the cases that we're hearing a lot about, they're also doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah. They're
doing a lot of smaller enforcement actions.
Here's more, Corey. Before Khan, the FTC was a conflict of interest assembly line, moving through corporate lawyers and industry hangers-on without resistance for decades. Khan is the first FTC head with no conflicts. This leaves her opponents in the sweaty, desperate position of inventing conflicts out of thin air. For these corporate lickspittles, Khan's conflict is that she has a point of view. Specifically, she thinks the FTC should do its job. And yeah, you're going to lose a few. You're going to win a few, maybe. You're going to lose a few.
Okay, so here's the question, though. If they had someone who was, pardon me, older and more experienced, would they have done a better job of picking the battles right and winning more and then making more actual progress rather than giving the right-wing capitalists of Rupert Murdoch the opportunity to say, we can do anything we want now because you keep losing.
So cases are brought for a couple reasons. And yes, it does suck that she's taken on two big cases and lost at that moment. Now, she's taking on a lot of other cases that they're either driving to settlement or actually winning on, or being told, hey, you have a point, but you got to come back with this. And what I think is worth celebrating is the fact that there is a point of view, and it is a very pro-consumer and pro-small business point of view. And B, they're firing on not just the major cases, but all cylinders. And a lot of times you see like activists or people say they're activists or Democratic people come in behind the scenes and try to like do a lot of fluffy stuff that's pretty low value and low risk. And they can get, like Jessica Rosenworcel, bless her heart, is a good case of somebody who's going for low risk, low value kind of wins when it comes to policy enactment. Mm-hmm. She's very liberal. She's making changes that are pretty small fry and not really consequential. Lina's doing well, and now she's actually going after big stuff.
Why does it seem
it's really important that she's there because we have this AI thing looming over our head. Mm-hmm. She's announced the FTC is investigating, not suing, but investigating OpenAI for non-consensually harvesting a bunch of personal information. That needs to be investigated.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. She's lost these two, but at least she's keeping everybody honest.
She's gone after Amazon Ring as a privacy dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. This is Corey's words. Khan has talked how her agency is protecting mom and pop grocers from giant price gouging, greedflation, drunk national chains.
And then maybe costing consumers more money as a result, just as the old fight against A&P back in the day, where consumers were hurt.
Yeah, I know, but we can't just look at lowering prices as the only metric by which we judge if something is a good thing.
Amazon brought prices down initially, but eventually what happens, they drive everybody out of business, and then guess what?
Exact same fight over A&P.
Mm-hmm. Well, exact same. All right, I think.
Well, and the FTC is also you could lower prices for consumers, but then hurt the environment. You can lower prices for consumers and drive all of your competition out of business. And those are some of if you look at her paper
that's dumping.
Did you read her paper?
No, I've got to now. Amazon? I want to read it. Yeah. I'm sure that's good. Kind of was the inspiration for Corey's enshittification article, which is similar premise, I think. Khan's opponents did manage to repeat a lot of smears against her, but not the bogus conflict of interest story. This is where it's germane to Jeff's accusation. They also accused her of being 0-4 in her actions to block mergers. Now, here's the response, Jeff. Ignoring the huge number of mergers that have been called off or not initiated because M&A professionals now understand they can no longer expect these mergers to be waved through.
Unless having seen for losses, maybe they're now going to be emboldened.
They might try, but she's still gonna go after them.
Corey uses it as an example. Just last night, I spoke with a friend who owns a medium-sized tech company that Meta tried to buy out, only to withdraw from the deal because Meta's lawyers told them it would get challenged at the FTC with an uncertain outcome.
That's what I'm digging right there. It's keeping folks honest and not trying to just slide stuff under the table.
You don't want. I understand what you're saying is there might be a middle ground. What you don't want is an FTC that says, "Come on, everybody, just merge.
Exactly.
We don't care."
No, you don't want.
But you don't want somebody to pick fights they can't win. And so the only argument would be: is she picking fights that she can't win?
That's my point.
Okay,
that's my point.
Okay, that's fair.
And it's not just winning. I mean, it also, I think, one can judge whether all the fights are the right fights. I disagree with some of the fights. You're going to agree with some. We're going to disagree with some. And that's okay. But I think she came in, now I'll piss you off. She came in as an ideologue. And it's hard for an ideologue in Washington to make great victories. And so at some point, she's going to disappoint those. At some point, I'm surprised I don't see, Corey at some point kind of saying, but I wish we'd win more cases.
That's the sort of centrist BS that people say, and that's what ends up, that's how we have been ending up pandering to the farther and farther right by calling these people ideologues.
I agree 100%.
And I will also say, you mentioned Amazon Ring privacy. She did a privacy settlement against Microsoft around children's rules. She also is helping dismantle non-competes, which I think, Jeff, you would be a big fan of.
I agree with that.
She's also...
I'm not saying
FTC is fighting a lot of battles. That's the point. The fact that she's lost 4 is not the only story. Remember Click to Cancel? We had this story last week. They're fighting companies that make it so hard and they're actually changing rulemaking to cancel something.
Are they doing? I haven't heard a thing about doing that with newspapers, by the way. But okay.
Well, but they want to make it as easy to cancel as it was to sign up. And who is against that? Except the companies?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah,
absolutely agree.
And they're doing their junk fee stuff. I mean, I get you, Jeff, but I think you're doing the sort of thing that you actually hate when journalists do, like headlines that totally like occlude the rest of the value of the story or the situation. I feel like you're looking at the headlines of Lina Khan's lost 4 big cases.
Well, I think those headlines matter. I'm not doing what Corey is accusing the right wing of the Wall Street Journal of doing. I'm not accusing her of conflict of interest or any of that stuff. I do say, I don't know why that was a laugh line. I do say, well, the right wing is going after her in all kinds, a whole laundry list of things. I'm not doing any of that. I'm saying, A, she's lost important cases. B, she is treating all of technology, moral panic time, as a presumed bad. That's
she
where
is not
she gets
treating all of technology as a presumed bad. She is actually actively. Thank you. That is why I was laughing, Jeff.
Okay. I didn't see it.
Stacey Higginbotham's last nerve has been hit. Yes, let's add another sticker to the collection.
Okay, I didn't have that on my screen down.
Usually that's me that gets that button.
Oh, man.
Finally, I'm going to finish the Corey Doctorow article with his concluding paragraph, and then we can all burn Jeff at the stake.
That's what normally happens.
If we back Khan and her team, Corey writes, they will protect us from these scams. Don't let them, him, convince you to give up hope. This is the start of the fight, not the end. We're trying to reverse 40 years of Reaganomics here. It won't happen overnight. There will be setbacks, but keep your eyes on the prize. This is the most exciting moment for countering corporate power and giving it back to the people in my lifetime. We owe it to ourselves, our kids, and our planet to fight one. Union now! Sorry.
I wonder if he's projecting this to be another 40-year battle, since we're trying to clean up 40
Corey
years.
is great, and he's also one of the best writers we have.
He's a polemicist,
and he's a brilliant polemicist, and this is polemic at the highest order.
Yeah, that's you got to take.
And I don't disagree with him. I understand your point absolutely, Jeff, and you're a little bit of hand-wringing here. But I think in the final analysis, if you look at the entire scope of what this very active FTC has done, it is absolutely positive. And so I just want to caution people to be a little bit careful focusing on, well, she's lost 4 cases now, because there's just as you say, Stacey, there's so much more going on that they've done that we agree with. Things like this can't cancel.
An activist FTC is the right way to look at this. The FTC under Lina Khan is issuing more statements and settling and pushing more lawsuits and pushing back like more than any other FTC in like recent memory. Yeah. And I mean, you could categorically look at that just by looking at the press releases issued.
FTC announces nationwide enforcement sweep to stem the tide of illegal telemarketing calls to U.S. consumers. That was just yesterday. Look at all that. These are all FTC actions. FTC and federal and state partners nationwide robocall and telemarketing enforcement sweep in Chicago. FTC sues to block IQVIA's acquisition of Propel Media to prevent increased concentration of healthcare programmatic advertising. There's the headlines, and then if you go to this is just the last week, by the way. If you go to just the FTC.gov website and look at their actions, they have been very active in doing a lot of good things, I think.
And a lot of I mean, honestly, I want my government agencies to actually take action against things. And a lot of times there's so much regulatory capture in these things, and it makes us so cynical about government. And I think we're of an era that is super cynical. And this is Lina Khan's actually helping me not be as cynical,
Thank
I guess,
you.
by actually taking these actions. So
thank you, Corey Doctorow, too, for clearing my mind and allowing me to steal your prose. and I will get up on this table and hammer it home.
Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here. In case you hadn't heard, Home Theater Geeks is back. Each week, I bring you the latest audio-video news, tips and tricks to get the most out of your AV system, product reviews, and more. You can enjoy Home Theater Geeks only if you're a member of Club TWiT, which costs $7 a month, or you can subscribe to Home Theater Geeks by itself for only $2.99 a month. I hope you'll join me for a weekly dose of home theater geekitude.